I don't really expect many people to relate to this, but I've never really had that big group of friends that I hang around with and we do literally everything together. Now, don't get me wrong, I do have friends, but sometimes I'd be sat down and I'd see these bigger groups of people and I'd feel a little sad and lonely and feel like I'm doing something wrong. However, I very quickly realised that there's a huge problem with this way of thinking, and it's something that nobody ever really talks about. And it was only when I started to use this idea of crash contacts when everything started to make sense. And the crash contact system works because it identifies those 5 types of people that you should be looking to form these deep connections with. So in today's video, I'm going to talk you through what those 5 categories of people are and why you need those people in your life. As always, the timestamps are on screen and they're in the description below, but that's enough hanging around. Let's get right into the video. So the first type of friend that you need in your crash contacts is a little bit of a weird one, because this is the friend that you're probably going to see the least. Yet they're the most important friend because they're going to give you the most happiness in the long term. Let me explain. So for all of you that don't know, I'm currently a student and live in the centre of London. However, that means that I'm pretty far away from all of my childhood friends and indeed all of my family. And the thing is, I don't really go home that often, maybe once every 2 or even 3 months. And this is where it gets a little bit surprising, because when I was home last over Easter, I drove down to Oak Furnitureland, which is where my friend works as an assistant manager. And the weird thing is, you would expect us to have pretty much nothing in common these days. I mean, we're both on really vastly different life trajectories. I mean, he has a whole career plan and I'm just sort of fumbling about trying to figure out what on earth I actually want to do with my life. However, the strangest thing is, when he got in the car, even though we hadn't spoken to each other for close to 6 months, we picked up like literally we saw each other yesterday. And that's because I'm going on the theory that the strongest relationship we can have with our friends is when we have shared memories with them. And this is why when we're from the age of about 18 to early 30s, it's so important to have that one friend from your childhood. But the problem is, change is inevitable. I mean, especially in your early 20s, when you're going through all of these like new and exciting opportunities, you're going to drift apart. And you're going to need to find a friend that kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone and is accommodating to this kind of new version of you that you're discovering for literally the first time in your life. And what does that look like? Well, to set the scene, 2 years ago, I left home for the first time and I went all the way to America to work in a summer camp. So I was really excited because it was an opportunity to kind of leave my hometown for the first time. I mean, the thing is, I was only 19, so I was pretty young in the grand scheme of things, and I didn't really know what was out there in the big wide world. And I would say, and I think most people around me would say, that I was a completely different person when I returned to the person that kind of left and went with his eyes full of curiosity. And I attribute that to one friend in particular. And that friend is called Q. Now, Q was quite a lot older than me. He's in his 30s now. And, you know, sort of that 10-year age gap is pretty substantial when you're, you know, just entering adulthood. And Q was really, really great and really inspiring. I mean, he'd worked in Disneyland, he'd been on Broadway, he'd traveled all around the world working as a dancer on cruise ships. And I guess he just showed me the possibilities of what actually existed in the world. And from that point and forming that amazing friendship, Q kind of encouraged me and pushed me to go and explore more of the world, to take more risks, and to just kind of see actually what was out there outside of my kind of small town that I was brought up in. But the problem that we now have is that both of these kind of relationships are a little bit fleeting. I mean, I've said how I never really go home and spend time with that childhood friend, and I mean, Q's all the way in America, so it's very rare that I can actually see him in person. But the next friendship is going to solve that. So 3 months ago, I had a pretty awful experience that I want to share with you guys. So it was the weekend and I went out with my friends. There were, I think, 4 of us in total. You know, we got quite drunk and we went to a few bars, went to a few clubs and just generally tried to have a good time. And I think most people around me would agree that normally I'm quite a confident, outgoing, friendly kind of guy. But this time I was not that at all. In fact, I was the opposite. And I very quickly realized that alcohol had the complete opposite effect on me. I mean, it made me nervous, shy, just generally really, really anxious and kind of worrying about what other people were thinking of me. And this was 3 months ago. And since then, I've not touched alcohol and I don't intend on anytime soon. But the problem with this is that, especially at university, it seems like lots of ways of meeting people are structured around like alcohol and going out and clubbing. But the great thing is that there is an alternative to meet people And it doesn't actually have to be this way. So the third friend on your crash contact is somebody that wants to work on their health with you. The thing is, with drinking, you're sort of limited in where you can go. I mean, it's either a pub or a club or maybe a house party. That's about it. But the best thing about having a friend that wants to work on their health with you is that you can go literally anywhere. So for me, I go on loads of runs with my friends, we'll go climbing, or we'll even go to the gym. But there's so much out there that you can actually do. So the third friend you need on your crash contacts is just somebody that's going to pursue that kind of healthy lifestyle with you. And if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that a big thing I preach about all the time is the kind of 3 pillars of your personality. Working on your health, working on your wealth, and working on your mindset. Now, in our crash contacts, we've touched on friends that can help you with your health and indeed your mindset, but we've not really spoken too much about wealth. And that's because it's one of the hardest things to try and find in your life. There's a simple trick. But before I tell you that, if you're finding this video helpful, please leave a like. And of course, if you're interested in more content all about how to live a meaningful life, make sure you subscribe so you won't miss a new video every time we release one on Monday. The other thing is, when I was in school, we were always told not to really use social media. And actually, the teachers made us feel a little bit scared of it. Look, I get that. It's very understandable. They just wanted to protect us. But I mean, the reality is, especially these days, social media is pretty unavoidable. But the problem is that 99% of people don't actually use it in the right way. And as I said before, in real life, especially depending on actually where you live in the world and the kind of communities that are around you, it can be really difficult to find people that are kind of motivated and passionate about the same things in life that you are. And this is especially true when it comes to kind of making money, building your own business, or indeed forging out a particular career. So the best way to solve this problem is to try and find some sort of online community that you can make friends with people through. And for me, YouTube is very much that place. I mean, it has been since I was young. And right now I'll leave up a couple of examples of the channels that I kind of focus on and try and engage in the comments with. But the point is, especially these days with the amount of people that work online and work remotely, you want to be looking to use social media as a way to build connections. But the fifth and final friend on your crash contacts is the one that most people neglect, so I need you guys to listen as closely as possible. Like I said at the start of the video, you are literally just an average of the people that you spend the most time with. And the person that you spend the most time with is actually yourself. And that's so important because I'm sure we can all relate to this. In life, there's times when, unfortunately, we have relationships and friendships that just fade out, and oftentimes we suffer because of it. So you need to know that you'll be okay by yourself. And if we go back to the very start of the video where I spoke about those big groups, I think the real truth about friendships is kind of a paradox. To not feel all of those feelings of loneliness or sadness or emptiness like you're missing out not having a big group of friends, you just need to be your own best friend. But maybe you've been feeling like you've been struggling to sort of love yourself recently. And I'll be honest, that was kind of me too. Until I made this one change that completely transformed my self-confidence. And to find out how I did this, you're going to want to watch this video here. So I'll see you there.